Game number 2 tonight in the Twin Cities. I hope those mics were hot between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Dallas. They were or were not hot? How hot? Scale 1 to 10. Not hot. It's summer, Friezo. Open up the mics.
Yes,
anyway, as we get you set for game number 2 tonight in the Twin Cities, it's the Timberwolves and the Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals. Dallas taking game number 1 on the road, 108-105, winning outright as a 4.5-point underdog. But let's start with the actual number here then, JY. Dallas wins as a 4.5-point underdog. And yet the number for game number 2 is even stronger in favor of the T-Wolves. Minnesota, a 5.5-point favorite currently for this second game of the WCF. JY, how do you evaluate the market movement entering game number 2?
Very simple. This is a must-win situation for a Minnesota Timberwolves team. They can't go to Dallas down 0-2. So I'm not shocked that the number has moved the way it is, because if you look at it, folks, you get a poor effort out of Anthony Edwards. You get not a great effort out of Karl-Anthony Towns, right? There was already talk, I think, after the game about the fact of them not playing with enough pace. I think people need to realize this. Minnesota is a very good, actually, I would say a great defensive team. But a guy like Anthony Edwards needs space, meaning in the secondary break, meaning not a primary break, 2-on-1, 3-on-1, but a 2-on-2, 3-on-3 situation in the front court where a defense can't get loaded up and he can shoot the three or hesitate and get to the hoop. So I think what you're going to see tonight out of Minnesota, Ben, is I think they want to be more opportunistic in transition. Try to get the ball up and down the floor a little bit more so you can get the ball in space and not let the defense match up. And let's be honest, folks, it's got to be a great series here. But the two stars, the superstars, have to show up for Minnesota tonight. And the big question is with this pick and roll game and the exposing of Rudy Gobert defensively, what does Coach Finch do? He's got to go to Naz Reid. I would be looking at Naz Reid's points prop, points plus rebounds prop. And then what happens? He's got to get more minutes. Does it mean less minutes for Cat? I don't think so. The guy's minute that may go down tonight is Rudy Gobert's.
Take a look at the last 2 games here and the focus here on Anthony Edwards. Supreme talent in the NBA, only 22 years old. He's had some unbelievable playoff performances already. But the previous 2 games, Coach, inefficiency comes to mind. 44 minutes, 6 of 24 from the field. That was in game number 7 versus the Nuggets. Game number 1 versus the Mavericks. 41 minutes, 6 of 16 from the floor. If we're looking at the FanDuel Sportsbook to say, how is he going to do tonight? Well, if you take a look at his points, 27.5 is his prop. For me, the minute game 1 got over, I looked at myself and said, I need the stars of the Timberwolves to play better in game number 2, and I think they will. I really love Ant going over 27.5 points. If we're taking a look at Minnesota, the 2 guys at the top end, right? We always look at Edwards and then Karl-Anthony Towns. What do you expect out of both of these guys tonight in regards to 27.5 and 20.5 for you, respectively, to their points props?
If you start looking at the last 15 games of Anthony Edwards, he's under this number in 10 out of the last 15. If you look at head-to-head matchups, it's 6 out of the last 8. He's under this number. Guys, it don't matter. Throw the numbers out the window. If you are Ant Edwards, you got to be ready for this, uber aggressive, really aggressive early in the game. Guys, I wonder, and I'm just thinking this out loud as I'm talking to you, maybe the play is Ant Edwards' first quarter points. Kind of what you saw Kyrie do early. I think he's got to establish himself early. If I'm Coach Finch, I'm trying to play, like I said, in transition. I would look at first quarter points for a guy like Anthony Edwards. Right now, his prop is at 7.5. It's at plus money. Very simply put, he's got to come out aggressive and look for his shot early and often. And if anything, try to get to the line by driving, forcing referees to call fouls, put him to the line. Maybe someone like Jones Jr. goes to the bench. And Edwards over his points prop, if you want to cash out early, over 7.5 in the first quarter plus money on FanDuel right now.
To JY's point, Anthony Edwards, 33-plus in 3 of the 4 games in the first-round series sweep over Phoenix. In the 8 games since, though, for Minnesota, only over 27.5 twice. When he went over, he scored at least 40, so it was a phenomenal performance that we remember, but has not often been over 27.5. A small caveat to those 6 unders of his points prop tonight. He has scored 27 2 other times. Of course, JY, both Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, sensational in game 1. Kyrie, his first time getting to 30 points in this postseason. Luka Doncic, a game-high 33. What does the dynamic duo for Dallas do for an encore?
I'm looking at Kyrie, and it's funny, the hot mic thing that we were talking about, it was really about Kyrie going to Boston in the finals. So Kyrie is starting to percolate a little bit. So I think Kyrie's going to be the guy, and I think what I've seen out of Luka is a willingness, especially last game, to let Kyrie be Batman and let them trade who does it. And I think what's really amazing, and this is how Dallas did this a couple of years ago with Brunson and Luka. One on the first side of the floor, one on the second side of the floor, let one cook, other one wait, and then they flip-flop roles. I like Kyrie to go over his points prop again. I think they're going to have a hard time checking it. And another guy, I think is going to be looking at is I think you have to look at Derek Lively the second. I got it wrong game 1. Openly admit it. I think Lively's a play. I think you keep the line the same if you're Jason Kidd, but you get an uptick in minutes and Lively because it seems like when he comes into the game, the energy kind of flips with this Dallas team. Lively would be someone I'll be live on tonight.
8.5 is the points prop for Derek Lively, the rookie out of Duke. The over even money plus 100. Let's show the Western Conference Finals odds and where the series stands entering game 2 tonight with the Timberwolves a 5.5-point home favorite. So we can show the odds. JY can look at them, and then we can get his take and his reaction on the other side. Dallas has flipped to the series outright favorite at minus 154. The T-Wolves, the underdog, at plus 130. Are the prices correct? JY will tell you up next here on the Early Line. All right, so right before the commercial break, we showed you the Western Conference Series odds as things stack up still in the WCF. Dallas, after taking game 1 on the road as an underdog and an underdog in the series outright price before the opening game, has now flipped to the favored side to win the Western Conference crown. Minus 154. The Timberwolves, despite being a 5.5-point home favorite for game number 2, now a series underdog. JY, as you couple it with how long this series is expected to go, 6 games in the total games market, now the shortest number at plus 165. What did game number 1 and Dallas winning on the road do to change your outlook for the WCF?
None. 7. I said 7 before, 7 now. The reason why it's 6 is very simple, folks. Game 7 is going to be in Dallas. So that's why you're looking at it as 6 games being the shortest spread, because people think about Dallas winning the game, winning it in 7 is not the possibility. But to me, I think this is a 7-game series. I said beforehand that was going to be the case. I'm sticking to it. My best bet is it goes 7 games because I think you're going to have this zigzag theory come on. I think it's 2-2 after 4 games. And then it's a best out of 3. And I wouldn't be surprised if home court is held in game 5 and 6. And we're looking at a game 7. 2 evenly matched teams, 2 teams that are really good defensively. I think we'll get Minnesota with the win, 1-1. Then the market will probably shift again. So to me, I think it goes 7 games.